वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। Hare Krishna. So continuing our study and discussion from the second chapter of the first canto, we are almost on the final verses of the second chapter entitled Divinity and Divine Services. So this is the final section where Srila Suta Goswami is answering the fourth question of the sages, that how does this material creation manifest, or what is the form that the Lord exhibits for the manifestation of this material universe. And in this way, he is answering the fourth question, where the sages has inquired about the Lord's transcendental pastimes in the form of his Purusha avatars. So we discussed that how in the beginning the Karnodakshayi Vishnu or Mahavishnu, he by his own potency, he creates this world and he converts the Pradhan into Mahatattva. And the three material modes manifest, and that is the cause and effect. So material manifestation begins, and how he expands, that we discussed in the 31st verse, that after creating the material substance, the Lord Vasudeva expands himself and enter into it. That is Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. And although he is within the material modes of nature, and he appears to be one of the created being, he is always fully enlightened in his transcendental position. And the 32nd verse speaks that how he further expands, like the fire permeates the wood. So he appears in all varieties of living entities as the super soul. So we discussed this. And very important instruction, Srila Prabhupada is saying that the Lord can be realized through the oral reception of the transcendental message. And that is the only way to experience the transcendental subjects. There is a very beautiful verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which speaks about this receptive oral reception and how important it is. Anyone knows the verse? Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhyo Kabhu Noy Shramanadi Suddha Chitte Karo Yaudai. So, the inclination to serve Krishna, and through service, what do we exhibit? We exhibit our natural love for Krishna. So, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem. So, that loving propensity is eternally there. How? Like the fire permeates the wood. The fire is already contained within the wood. So, within the living entity, this tendency to love Krishna and to serve Krishna is always there, inherent. But in spite of being inherent, it is dormant. So how it can be manifest or how it can be ignited? Shravanadi Suddha Chitta. By the powerful process of submissive hearing from bona fide sources. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitta Karaya Udoy. One can awaken it or one can manifest it. As here it is being said, that the Lord can be realized through the oral reception of the transcendental message, and that is the only way to experience the transcendental subject. As fire is kindled from wood by another fire, the divine consciousness of man can be similarly kindled by another divine grace. And that divine grace is the spiritual master, who is compared to the spiritual fire. And when coming in contact with that spiritual fire, the wood-like living entity can also be ignited. And now today's verse, the 32nd verse. Asau guṇamayair bhāvair bhūta-sūkṣmendriyātmabhiḥ sva-nirmiteṣu nirviṣṭo bhuṅkte bhūteṣu tad-guṇān. Asau also is speaking about the same personality who is pervading among the all living entities. So the Paramatma and the super soul enters into the body of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material. So please do not misinterpret that the Paramatma. It is asau guṇamayair bhāvair bhūta. So asau, the Paramatma, who is within the heart of the living entities. And the living entities, they are guṇamayair bhāvair. They are all influenced by the modes, by the three modes, guṇamayair, bhāvair. And what the Lord does is sva-nirmiteṣu. So He causes the created beings to experience the three modes, and through the three modes, they are always attempting to have the effect, the cause and effect. What is the cause? The cause that the interaction of the three modes, they are trying to enjoy through this body. And here it is said that Atmabhi is the own created beings. The created beings which are created by the Lord, by the influence of the three modes and the mind, and the subtle mind, sūkṣmendriya, sthulendriya, the five karmendriya and the jnanendriya. But heart to the senses is the sūkṣmendriya. Sūkṣmendriya means subtle sense. What is the subtle sense? Is the mind. Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita when he says, Mana shashthani indriyani prakriti sthane karshati. So the super soul enters into the bodies of the created beings who are influenced by the modes of material nature and causes them to enjoy the effects of these modes by the subtle mind. The same principle Krishna is saying. Mame vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. The living entities are my fragmented parts and parcel. Which chapter and which verse is this? I should have made you speak the verse. Quickly, this is very famous verse from Bhagavad Gita. Which chapter and which verse? Yes, Pranab Prabhu?
15.8.
15.8. Dayashil Prabhu, which verse number is this?
Prabhuji, 15.7.
You were near, it is 15.7. Krishna is saying, Mameva amsho. Mama eva amshaha. Mama means mine. So the living entities, they are all mine. But they are not like me. They are amshaha. And Krishna is amshi. So, jiva bhuta in the material world, in the conditioned state, but still Even in being in the conditioned state, they are sanatanaha. They are eternal. But why they are not having the liberated position? Because mana shasthani indriyani prakriti sthane karshati. Because of the senses and the mind, they are struggling very hard. You remember karshati? We discussed in very much detail what is karshati. And that is the survival for existence, the extreme struggle. The struggle is because of the mind. And what the mind is trying to do? It is trying to enjoy through the influence of the modes. So here, the same is being said. So, how the manifestations takes place, it is explained. And the super soul enters into the bodies of the created beings, that is the Paramatma, who are influenced by the modes of material nature. It is guṇamayair and sva-nirmiteṣu, and causes them to enjoy the effects of these three modes by the subtle mind. So there are 8,400,000 species of living beings, beginning from the highest intellectual being Brahma down to the insignificant ant. And all of them are enjoying the material world according to the desires of the subtle mind and gross material body. All of them are enjoying the material world according to the desires of the subtle mind and gross material body. The gross material body is based on the conditions of the subtle mind. This is the very, very important principle. Please pay attention here. Prabhupada is giving a very deep philosophical point. The gross material body is based on the conditions of the subtle mind. What it means? That the gross material body is based on the conditions of the subtle mind. Hmm? What it means? Now, please share. There's nothing new. We have discussed it. We've discussed it in the second chapter. Yes, Ramya. No, your daughter is also raising hand. She also wants to speak. She is still enjoying the cake. I could see her face was all white. Achha.
Prabhuji, we get material body according to our desires.
Yeah, but what is the role of mind? Now, Prabhupada is speaking here. Do we always get our material body according to desire? Everyone has a desire to go to the heavenly planets and become a demigod and enjoy. So just by desiring, they will get the body. Right? Think properly. The gross material body is based on the conditions of the subtle mind. What does it mean? Prabhupada is saying it is based on the conditions of the subtle mind. Yes, Madan Swarup Prabhu?
Yes, Babaji. So everything, all thought processes start from the mind. And how far is the conditioning of our mind or the subtle body that creates the karma, and that's how we get the body.
More clarity is required. Krishna speaks that in the second chapter. Anyone remembers the verse? Yes, absolute clarity. It is talking about, we're discussing desire and mind and the creation of bodies. Oh, your hand is up. Dayashil bro, you want to answer? I have discussed that words at least so many times.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, this is the characteristic of a self-realized person. The prajahati yada kaman sarvan parthamanugatat.
Yes. Atmani eva tat santushta.
Tasya pragam pratisthita.
Tasya pragya prajah. So the first thing Krishna has clarified is prajahati yada kaman. And where is this desires coming from? Where are these desires coming from? Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. From our mind. But as so many times we have explained that not everyone's desire is the same. We have different desires. All of us are hearing Bhagavatam, but do we have the same desires? No. Everyone has different desires. So what is the root of the desire? It's the conception that we have as to who we are. Like Manoram Prabhu, he will have desires relating to what he thinks he is. He thinks he is a scientist. So what desires will manifest? When is the scientific presentation going to take place? What is the new discovery? So he will have desires related to his career, to his academics, or in terms of the pursuing of his career, where he can achieve success. What he relates himself to what he is. Priyanka may not have any such desires. Priyanka, you are hearing? What will be your desires? What I will cook tomorrow morning. That desire may not be there. With Pranav, what is the desire in Pranav's heart? Will I get this time leave for Mayapur or not? You have applied or not?
Not yet, Prabhuji.
You will not change. You stubborn fellow. I told you to apply the same day.
This time I'll get Prabhuji. I hope.
Again, you are overconfident and you will be kicked off. Overconfidence is always kicked off. Anyway, so every person has different desires, and desires are according to his conditioning. And what is the conditioning means? That what he thinks he is. And what he thinks he is, he has that kind of desires, and according to desire, he creates his action. And according to the action, he gets the body. And this is the circle. The conceptions, based on the conceptions, there are desires. According to desire, there are the actions. And according to the actions, one gets the suitable body. Okay, we'll move further. Prabhupada, the gross material body is based on the conditions of the subtle mind. And the senses are created according to the desire of the living being. Another powerful statement. The senses are created according to the desire of the living being. Can someone enlighten? Senses are created according to the desires. Prabhupada's purports are very deep. People complain about fate. It has nothing to do with fate. So one can decide what body he can have and what kind of senses he can have. Please explain, or please share what is the understanding. Prabhupada gave many examples. You remember Prabhupada's example? Yes, there, Shilpa.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in some of the lectures, Srila Prabhupada tells that suppose somebody desires to, eat stool, whatever, but he gets a body in such a way that he will have the senses to eat the stool, like hogs.
Yes, Prabhupada gives this example. Yeah.
Yeah.
That if somebody is indiscriminately eating, if it does not discriminate that what should be eaten and what should not be eaten, so he'll be given a suitable body in the hog. And Prabhupada gives many more examples that those who want to to show their body, they want to remain naked. So what they will become? They'll become tree in the next life. Prabhupada gives many such examples here. Why? Because according to the conception or the mental position, we will have desires, and according to desire, we create actions or karma, and according to that, we get a suitable body and senses. So Prabhupada says that one who wants to eat flesh, so what kind of body he will get? Prabhupada's very famous quote that he will be given the body of a tiger, so that he can eat flesh. So he will have what kind of senses? He will have very sharp jaws, very sharp teeth, and all this, so that he can eat flesh. The Lord as Paramatma helps the living being to get material happiness because the living being is helpless in all respects in obtaining what he desires. He proposes and the Lord disposes. Man proposes and God disposes. In other sense, the living beings are parts and parcels of the Lord. They are therefore one with the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, the living being in all varieties of body have been claimed by the Lord as his sons. Which verse is this? See the translation clearly. See the statement. In the Bhagavad Gita, the living beings in all varieties of bodies have been claimed by the Lord as his sons. So please give the exact verse. The verse is there in Bhagavad Gita. Bolo, it should come out immediately. Pradeep, bro, which verse is this? Yes, Purushottam, बोलिए.
प्रभु जी मवय मांसो जीव लोके जीव भूता सनातन.
No. See the translation clearly now. I again repeated it. This verse I just quoted. Here it is being said that the living being in all varieties of bodies have been claimed by the Lord as his sons. Where is he saying that Mame Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta? He is saying Sanatana. Yes, Ramya?
सर्वजनेषु कौन्तेय अहं बीजप्रदायकः.
Yes. Sarvayoneshu Kaunteya Murtaya Sambhavantiya Tasa Mahat Brahmyoni Aham Bija Pradapita. 14.3. Honorable Prabhu, show the verse. Yeah. So Krishna is saying Sarvayoneshu Kaunteya. In all species of life. Murtaya Sambhavantiya Tasam Brahm Mahadhyonir Aham Bij Pradapita. So the translation. That in all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and I am the seed-giving father. So Krishna is considering everyone to be his sons and daughters. Yeah, Prabhupada says in this verse, it is clearly explained the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna, is the original father of all living entities. Okay, close it. So we go ahead. The suffering and enjoyment of the sons are indirectly the suffering and enjoyments of the father. Prabhupada says the sufferings and enjoyment of the sons are indirectly the suffering and the enjoyment of the father. Still, the father is not in any way affected directly by the suffering and enjoyment of the sons. He is so kind that he constantly remains with the living being as Paramatma and always tries to convert the living being towards the real happiness. So Prabhupada very compassionately in many of his lectures says that the super soul is as Paramatma, as the father. He is so kind and he never leaves the living entity. And whatever species of life and whatever condition of life is, wherever he is, he always accompanies. This is a true friend. Krishna says in 5th chapter 29th verse, that Suhidam Sarva Bhutana. Another feature of Suhidam is he never leaves. Unless and until the jiva is delivered or the soul becomes eligible to return back home, back to Godhead, till that time the super soul accompanies him in all species of life. Now, what is the purpose? Yeshua Prabhupada is explaining. Because as the soul suffers, the Paramatma also indirectly, he also suffers. Why? Because which father will be happy or he be satisfied when he sees his son or daughters are suffering? And always tries to convert the living being towards the real happiness, towards him. We discussed that verse that day. Samane vrikshe purusha nimagno anishiya sochati muhyamanaya jushtam yada pashyati anyamisha asya mahimanam iti vita-shoka. Immediately his suffering will be over. We saw that verse. It is 2.22. Show that verse. 222. Bhagavad Gita 222, Srila Prabhupada quotes that. So immediately the suffering of the jiva can be released forever. How? Very beautifully that verse. Yeah, come down. Prabhupada is quoting in the purport. Asya mahimayam iti vita-shoka. Come down. Yeah. So see, yes, remain. Please, don't go down. Show the verse. Yes, remain here. So samane vrikshe purusho nimagno. So samane vriksha is in the same branch, but the living entity is completely engrossed. Nimagna means he is completely submerged. Why? In enjoying. Purusha means the enjoyer. And he is anishiya. Anishiya means he never considers anyone to be the supreme. So he considers himself to be the supreme. So anishiya. But he is always shochati. Shochati means he is always lamenting, or he is in moroseness, and muhyamanaya. He is always in illusion. Muhyamanaya. And why his moroseness is there? Because he is not able to see the Supreme or not acknowledge the position of the Supreme. But jushtam yada pashyati anyam isham. But somehow if he turns his attention or he turns his vision towards anyam isham, the anyam isham is that there is someone else who is the Supreme. The Supreme is the Supreme and I am the subordinate. And if we accept that, how that will happen? Asya mahimanayam. By the process of hearing mahima. If he hears the glories of the Supreme, if he fills his heart with the glories of the Supreme, then iti vita shokaha. Immediately he'll be released. All his sufferings will be terminated. Although the two birds are on the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruit of the tree. But if in some way or the other he turns his fame to his friend and knows his glories. So how one will know the glory? By the process of hearing. At once this suffering bird becomes free from all anxiety. Arjuna has now turned his face towards the eternal friend Krishna and is understanding the Bhagavad Gita from him. Here also comes the point. And thus hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. Interestingly, okay, Manoram Prabhu, you can stop the share. I met someone today. I gone for work distribution. The big businessman, a big business magnate. He was very generous. He did 1,000 Bhagavad Gitas also. But the next generation has taken over. And he was in great moroseness. What was the moroseness? That now he is not being considered to be the top boss. His son has taken over. So he was sharing that even अभी तो मुझसे कोई पूछता भी नहीं. जो करना है अपने आप ही करते हैं. Then he asked me, अगर आपसे आपका डिपार्टमेंट ले लेंगे तो क्या करोगे? मैंने तो सोचा, मैं बोलूं मैं तो झांकूंगा भी नहीं. But that attachment cannot be released. Why? Because that feeling of being supreme. And why being supreme? As the enjoyer, as the controller. I told him that for any materialist, it is not possible to make shift because they do have no alternative. They know only one way. And that way is the way of attachment. And why the attachment is there? Because the attachment, they are thinking that they can enjoy through this post or position. So, very important verse that Purusha Nimagna. So, in this material world, because of our wrong conception, the wrong impressions that we are carrying from millions of life in our mind, that we are this body, and through this body, this material world, this material senses is there for enjoyment. And again, in different varieties of life, in various species of life, in various ways, we are trying to do the same thing. That is why Prahlad Maharaj says, Punah Punah Charvita Charvananam. We are trying to chew the chewed, which we have tried in past millions of life, in various species of life. But the super soul is there, still there, waiting and wanting us to look at him, to accept his message, to guide us and to release us. We'll take the next verse also quickly. So this will complete this chapter. This is the final verse. So he is so kind that he constantly remains within the living being as Paramatma and always tries to convert the living being towards the real happiness. Final verse. Bhavayaty esha sattvena lokān va loka-bhāvanaḥ līlāvatārānurato deva-tiryaṅ-narādiṣu. Thus the Lord of the universe maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men and lower animals. Assuming the roles of incarnation, he performed pastimes to reclaim those in the mode of pure goodness. So this is in response to the fourth and fifth questions which were raised by the sages. So now the following chapter will speak completely about the Līlāvatars, the various incarnations of the Lord. So here it is the opening verse saying that thus the Lord, of the universe maintains all planets inhabited by demigods, men, and lower animals. That are the three strata: the higher planets, the middle planets, and the lower planets. Assuming the roles of incarnations, he performs pastimes. That is why it is called Līlāvatārānurato. The song that we sang, Gopinath, Jivere Karan, Asiya Prapanche, Leela Kailasu Vistar. That it is Jivere Karan, Asiya Prapanche, Leela Kailasu Vistar. Gopinath, Mavani Vedan Suno. So, to reclaim the living entity, the Supreme Lord has to assume the forms of so many, perform so many pastimes to reclaim. And who will be reclaimed? Not all. Those in the mode of pure goodness. There are innumerable material universes, and in each and every universe, there are innumerable planets inhabited by different grades of living entities in different modes of nature. The Lord Vishnu incarnates himself in each and every one of them. Very important. The Lord Vishnu incarnates himself in each and every one of them. And in each and every type of living society, he manifests his transcendental pastime amongst them just to create the desire to go back to Godhead. See the compassion. Because that desire does not exist anywhere. That conception is not there. What is the purpose of his assuming the Leela avatar, his pastime, or performing the various pastime, is to create the desire. Srila Prabhupada is so, expertly explaining that what is the purpose of all this Leela avatar is to create the desire, to return home back to Godhead. The Lord does not change his original transcendental position, but he appears to be differently manifested according to the particular time, circumstances, and society. Sometimes he incarnates himself or empowers a suitable living being to act for him. That is called Satyavesh avatar. But in either case, the purpose is the same. The Lord wants the suffering living being to go back home, back to Godhead. The happiness which the living beings are hankering for is not to be found within any corner of the innumerable universes and material planets. The eternal happiness which the living being wants is obtainable in the kingdom of God. But the forgetful living beings under the influence of the material modes have no information of the kingdom of God. The Lord therefore comes to propagate the message of the kingdom of God, either personally as an incarnation or through his bona fide representative as good Son of God. Such incarnation or Son of God are not making propaganda for going back to Godhead only within the human society. Their work is also going on in all types of society amongst demigods and those other than human beings. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the first canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Divinity and Divine Service. Quickly, let us recap what was the second chapter. What was the first section of the second chapter? Quickly, who remembers what we discussed in the first section of the second chapter? Yes, Sonika.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Pranam. Initially, Sutta Goswami offered his gift of the senses and prayers towards his guru and Sukadeva Goswami.
And also there is glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Srimad Bhagavatam, yes, Prabhu.
You remember the first verse that we memorized? Verse number 3.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hello?
First, sorry, initial, I'm forgetting. Ja,
रोज इसका मतलब रोज मेमोराइज नहीं कर रहे, रोज रिमाइंड नहीं कर रहे. I have told so many times, when you are brushing, when you are bathing, when you are changing clothes, keep repeating the verse. Keep reciting the verse, you will be in pure goodness. बोलो जल्दी बोलो, without any blemish. Quickly.
So the first word I'm forgetting. I remember the word. I revised also, but I
Yes,
first word I'm.
sva-nirmiteṣu.
Yes, Svanva.
बोलो.
Yes, Svanubhava. No, sorry, Prabhuji, I forgot completely right now. I revised also,
But you
Prabhuji, but
have not practiced. Have you practiced for the last 15 days? Every day?
not every day, Prabhuji, but I revised, Prabhuji.
Even if one day you forget to revise, it is gone. This is Kali Yuga memory, Baba. Kali Yuga memory. प्रियंका बोलो, जल्दी बोलो. इतनी देर में तो रिवाइज कर लिया होगा ना, मन में रिवाइज कर लिया. बोलो.
यश्वानुभावम् अखिलश्रुतिसारमेकम् अध्यात्मदीपम् अतितीर्षतां तमोऽन्धम् संसारिणां कारुण्य
पुराण गुह्यम नहीं याद किया है. नहीं है.
पुराणज्ञम्
आगे बोलो.
तं व्यासशृणुम् उपयामि गुरुं मुनीनाम्.
भैया इतना आपस में कोऑपरेशन चल रहा है तो अच्छा है. Okay, so the first section is offering obeisances and glorification of the spiritual master from whom he has heard, and also glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is compared to the shining lamp. It is like a lamp. Līlāvatārānurato Chakravarti Thakur compares Srimad Bhagavatam to 5 objects. And the first object that he compares the Srimad Bhagavatam is the shining lamp. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Nāshyāmi ātma bhāvastav jnana dīpena bhāsvata. So it removes the darkness which is there. It is atitirshita tamo andham. It removes the darkness which is there inside. Okay, what is the next section? What is the next section? If you remember with verses also, from where to where. So the obeisances and the prayers, the glorification is from which verse to which verse? We completed this chapter, we spent almost 1 month. We started in Kartik. Kartik, we started Srimad Bhagavatam, so we completed the first chapter in Kartik. And now in Katyayani Vrat, we have completed the second chapter. We'll begin the third chapter tomorrow. Quickly, Bolo, what is the second section? What is Sutta Goswami explaining in the second section? And from which verse to which verse? You are turning your pages, not finding the answer. Pradeep? What is the second section? भूल गए पूरा second chapter. I have to revise. If you spend even 5 to 10 minutes every day, you will not forget. He starts to answer the first and second question. Remember the question, Manesh? What are the questions? First and second question.
Prabhuji, what is the ultimate and ultimate
And the
absolute?
yeah, simple, ultimate and absolute. What is the highest thing to do for the human race? So what he establishes? What Sutta Goswami establishes in this chapter? Manoram Prabhu? What is that?
Prabhuji, rendering devotional service to Vasudev.
What is the verse? This is the Paribhasha Sutra of Srimad Bhagavatam. If you don't remember this verse, then what is the use of studying Srimad Bhagavatam? This verse, how can you forget? Pranab, what is the verse?
Prabhuji 2.6.
This way.
Savai pumsa parodharmo yato bhaktiradhakshaja ahituki apratihata yatma suprasidati.
Yes. So this is if one performs devotional service to the Supreme Lord Vasudeva, then his Atma suprasedes, fully satisfied. Okay. Then what is the next section? Who is not answered? Yes, Ramya, what is the next section?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
The Purusha avatars were explained in next.
No, Purusha avatar will come from verse number 30. We discussed today and day before. You are having the new cap? Huh? I can see your new cap. Well, Purusha avatar will come much later. That is the end of this section, this chapter. Before that, he gives a detailed description. पढ़ो रिवाइज करो, नहीं तो सब भूल जाएंगे. बोलो. No one remembers. So please revise. Revise. Unless and until you explain to me the full, tomorrow I will take test again. I will ask random from you. We will revise the second chapter again. And then we will see if we can start the third chapter. Third chapter is very, very important chapter. It talks about the Krishna as the source of our incarnation. The Paribhasha Sutra comes in the end. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Okay, so please come back. Bring back all your consciousness and please keep distributing books. Manoram Prabhu has completed how much? 70% done? 70%. Huh? How much is your quota?
Including books, it is 1,000, Prabhuji.
1,000. So you have done 700. Good. Today also I went, by Krishna's blessing, it was good. I did around 2,000 Bhagavad Gitas. If you go out and make attempt, then only it will happen. If you remain inside your house, only few days are left, they will be over. And the opportunity to do perform, it will only be in mental speculation. Save pumsa paro dharma. Yado bhakti radhokshate. But where are we doing it? Where are we putting that into action? Just go out and attempt without being attached to what is the result. Surely Krishna will be pleased. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.